What is going on, my friends? My name is Parker Andriese, DJ of 10 years and host of Behind the Energy podcast. I've been able to meet some pretty awesome people along the way, and we're bringing them on here to go behind the energy, sharing their stories, lessons learned, and shine light on some of their major milestones. If you're into DJing, the event industry, or entrepreneurship, I think you'll dig the show. I really appreciate you being here with me. Now that we've set the table, it's time to jump right in and get started with today's episode. What's up, party people? It is Monday, December 19th, 2022. And it's episode 56 of Behind the Energy podcast. Garrett, what's up, my dude?
What's up, man? How we doing?
We're tired.
Absolutely.
But we got the wings to power us through it and some good vibes. Ladies and gentlemen, party people, listeners, viewers, YouTube people, thank you for tuning in. We are approaching the end of season 3 of the podcast. We're doing a stretch of 20 episodes, and we've got this one and 4 more afterwards. I hope you've been enjoying. If you haven't, talk crap on me in the comments and all that good stuff. But we're not talking about me or the podcast. We are doing a podcast. We're here to talk about Garrett. Garrett, if you're unfamiliar, just a little bit of the structure of the show is primarily focused on telling the story of the guest, the story of their entrepreneurial background, their background in music, background in DJing, and some of the major milestones within to highlight on what you've been able to do, and also share some of the learning experiences that you've had in the event someone can benefit from that.
Dope.
So that is the premise of what we're going to be doing here. I've got a fun bio written by Garrett that I'm going to kick off, and then we're going to turn the time over to him. But Garrett is a 36... I don't even want to read this, bro. 36-year-old studly man suffering from a midlife crisis and channels it into his music. He finds humor in the best ways to live through all the shitty things in life. I'm sensing we're going to get some sarcasm in this episode.
Nope.
Garrett works a dope day job and focus on what matters the most, which is the music and making some fun, dope things. So that is just a little teaser for what's to come in the conversation. I want to take it back for a moment to provide a little context for the listeners and kind of introduce our friendship, if you will.
Yeah.
I think our paths quite literally crossed nearly 10 years ago at a Marcus Swing event in some capacity.
It had to have.
And I want you to talk about that more here in just a moment. Mm-hmm. But we didn't actually really start connecting, build a friendship until the last 6-ish months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In the last 6 months, we've spent a fair amount of time together, whether that be shows. Oh God, get freaky. That was incredible. Or just mixing and talking music and such. So, Garrett Erickson and Bastion,
mm-hmm.
as the artist name,
yep.
Is our guest. I was gonna say host is our guest for today, and we're gonna learn a lot about his experience as a musician, as a producer, as an artist, and as a DJ as well. So Garrett, my dude, this is the part where I get to turn it over to you for a minute. I got my questions. Let's see here. So let's take it back to the first artists or bands that you were interested in, say 7th, 8th, 9th grade.
7th, 8th, 9th grade. I actually was really different when it came to music back then. 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. So since I was a kid, I was always in choirs. I always sang. That's how I got into music to begin with. And
was that by choice?
Initially, no. In 6th grade, you're required to either do band or choir. And band, I was like, okay, my brother played drums. I want to play drums. So they give you a little drum pad that you have to practice on. I'm like, I'm not doing that. And so I went and did choir instead. And then from there, it was cool because that's really what escalated everything in my life to music. But 7th, 8th grade, I realistically, because of kind of music and choir and all that sort of stuff, I was listening to more classical and jazz stuff. Like I didn't, as old as I am, I never listened to things like T-Pain or anything like that until probably 26.
That breaks my heart.
No, 23, 24. Yeah.
Were you not influenced, or was that an influence from family and friends?
No.
Classical, jazz?
No, it was jazz and classical music and like classic rock. That was my dad's influence.
Classic rock, okay.
Yeah. Like Creedence Clearwater Revival, stuff like that. I grew up on that. But then all of a sudden I discovered a whole other genre like classical and jazz and stuff like that, which are just completely crazy different than like rock music or anything like that.
Interesting.
And that's what was my first influence up until after 22, 23.
Okay, so that's kind of a jump in time, but like, talk to me about that jump in time. Was there any involvement in terms of producing or DJing in that time frame?
No, but
shortly after
it was performance arts during that time. So I was in choir. I started getting into musicals and doing things like that.
Thank you.
Back then I had done shows in high school, and then after high school, all of a sudden I had an opportunity that there was some local theater that they needed someone to play Scarecrow, and they were trying to find somebody, and I was told to go try out, and I was like, I don't want to do this. And so I ended up going in, and for some reason, he's like, I need you to try to do something. Try and walk like you're almost falling, but don't fall. I'm like, what? Okay. So I went and tried it. Mm-hmm. Apparently I nailed it. And then
this is the rehearsal.
This is the audition.
The audition, excuse me. Yeah.
So I auditioned for it, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, you can sing too. I'm like, yeah, pretty much. Because the guy that recommended me, he was one of the people that had done a lot of their shows and recommended me because he knew I could sing.
Very interesting.
And then just escalated from there. And I started doing summer stock theater where I got paid to do it for a while.
Wow.
And yeah.
Needless to say, the audition went well. You got that specific part. Was that the lead part in that particular performance?
So it was Wizard of Oz Scarecrow.
Okay. Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I know Wizard of Oz. I don't live in that much of a bubble. Okay. I feel like we breezed over that quite quickly in terms of the performing arts. Garrett, can you give me a little bit more context, the listeners a little more context of what that looked like and how you, I guess, grew as a performer and started to gain more of an interest in terms of like dance music, like so that thinking and what that looked like in that time?
Yeah, this is exactly what happened. So I went from doing summer stock theater, to thinking, you know what? I sing good, I can dance well, I can act well. Screw it. Let's move. Me and my brother moved to New York, and I tried out there, and I realized I am not that good. The people out there everyone's a 10 out of 10. They're the best singers, the best dancers, the best actors. I was probably like a hard 7.
Really?
And I was like, man, you know what? I'm definitely put in my place. I'm not where I want to be to do this. I would have to put a lot more work to get where I want to be, and I don't feel like I have the time to do it. So we moved back, and then I met my best friend, Braden, which you've met.
Oh, sorry, I'm going to pump the brakes for a second. What was that? I feel like kind of getting that realization had to have been kind of a lot emotionally and like just mentally. Understanding and accepting that, or
I've had those
dealing
moments,
with that, if you will.
I've had those moments like a couple times in my life where I realize, I'm a lot less than I thought I was. Because it might have been like an arrogance thing at the beginning. I don't know. But that moment of realization, I don't think it's a bad thing or even a sad emotional part. It's more of okay, I know where I'm at. It's awesome. For me, it's clarity. And as someone that's grown up with severe adult ADHD, clarity is not something we get very often. Those moments are actually really nice to have. Wow.
Through that lens, that angle, that makes a lot more sense. Adult ADHD aside, ADD or ADHD? ADHD, okay, thank you. That aside, I feel like even having that perspective and moving along quickly like that is probably fairly unique if you've invested this level of time and work towards a goal, passion, a life career, move across the country, and then have this understanding and then move beyond that. So I just wanted to pump the brakes on that for a little bit. You had then met your best friend, Braden.
So we met Braden.
Talk to me about...
So the crazy thing is, and he and I have the best story, all I can say is we beat the crap out of each other and we became the best of friends. I've told you
a little bit about this, yes.
And anyone wants to know, they can ask me. But, so we ended up beating the crap out of each other. I moved to New York, came back, and then we met at a Chromeo concert. And we're chatting for a while, and he's like, dude, come over sometime, let's hang out. And we hung out, we became best friends. It was the weirdest thing. But we both, at the time, the Cosmopolitan had just opened in Vegas. It was the brand new nightclub, the new big one, or the big casino with the Cosmo is the club, the Marquee is the. No, am I getting mixed up? Cosmopolitan is the casino, Marquee is the club,
the nightclub. Okay.
So, he happened to go to something and was about to leave the building, and he saw one car slam into another one in the parking lot, and the guy drive off. Well, the guy came out and was like, "Did you see it?" And he was like, "Yeah, I got the plates too." Okay, cool. So he went to court with the guy. The guy was the VIP host at Marquee. And so he's like, hey, do you want to bring some friends?
There we go.
To come see this group. It's called LMFAO. And I hate to say this is the band, the group that got me big.
That is so dope. That puts it into perspective timing. That's sick.
But so that was the timing. It was right when Party Rock Anthem had just come out.
Yeah, I got to interject again.
Yeah,
have you seen that meme where it's like LMFAO ran so us DJs could walk or whatever, something like that?
I haven't, but yeah, it makes sense.
Or it's like they were like breaking the grounds in terms of like what they're doing at the time was like a gateway drug for electronic music and more people loving it.
It's the weirdest thing because like I hate to admit that, right? I hate to be the person that's like, dude, the reason I got into electronic music was Party Rock Anthem. And it's because I went and saw them play their show. They have had the best live show I've ever seen in a nightclub because they have their guys dancing around on the stage, going nuts, having fun. They're pouring shots in everybody's mouth. It was a great time in general. That's why I got hooked.
You've been to a fair amount of shows too. That's a bold statement. So I didn't mean to interject, but
you're good.
I figured you'd appreciate that and also understand that you went to go see LMFAO at not the Mark.
No, at the Marquee.
At the Marquee.
Marquee
at Las Vegas. Yeah. Okay, awesome. You had never listened to any other DJs?
No.
Bro.
But that's what opened it for Skrillex at the time.
It's a gateway drug, bro.
Everyone else. Boys Noise, everything. It just all opened up.
That's dope. Okay. So was Braden into electronic music?
That's the thing. Before, no. I don't think so.
Okay.
Because, the reason me and him have been friends as long as we have a lot of the same interests in general in life.
Okay.
And so the second I got hooked, he got hooked.
You shared that initial interest together.
And that's what really made us best friends to begin with. And then over time, obviously, just knowing each other more and more and just the way we are. But it's fun because, like, that's what started everything. And it didn't really, like, that was just my interest in electronic music in general. I never considered ever making it back then.
Talk to me for just a second. Yeah. Around this time when you started discovering this world of electronic music, were you writing music at all?
No.
Were you singing at all? Or were you performing at any capacity?
I was doing some performance stuff, but nothing big at all.
Okay.
Just like little things, because I was LDS back then or Mormon back then, and we had like little things that they had going on that we'd do stuff in those, but that was the extent of it. Interestingly enough, that was the same year. We had this dumb little talent show thing, and I did like Backstreet Boys sing that or something, some Backstreet Boys song.
And you performed it?
Yeah, but
funnily we need to go to an open mic thing together.
Dude, I love that stuff. I'm down. But interestingly enough, just so you know, people that were there, Imagine Dragons, before they were big. They were in our singles ward back then. Dan was at least.
That is awesome.
And it was just kind of fun because we'd go to their stuff all the time, and me and Braden met in an underground fight group.
Yeah, over at Valor.
Yeah. Well, no. This is down in Vegas. Because Dan's from Vegas.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Like, their whole family is. But yeah, so he was in our ward, and then I actually became friends with his little brother, Coulter, who he manages Jorgen Odegaard, if you know who he is.
Yeah, we talked about a little bit about this, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just kind of funny because, like, looking back and seeing all that group, I'd been like, no, nothing's going to happen from that. And then like how many ever years later, I'd look back and I'm like, there's no way I never would have thought in the future, I'm going to make music. I'm going to make electronic music.
Interesting. All these songs without words and boots and cats. And I mean, that sounds, I'm just being sarcastic, but
no, I get it.
Okay. So I imagine at this time it's discovering new artists and maybe going to a new show every now and then.
Yeah.
Getting introduced to this, into this kind of like lifestyle, this culture. Is this around the time when you started working with Marcus Wing 4FX?
No, so I was in Vegas during this time. I lived in Vegas at this time.
Okay.
And we were just kind of down there as we moved here in 2012. So before that, which I was back in Vegas in 2010, so we were there for 2 years.
2 years in Vegas.
But we were going to shows every weekend.
That's right.
Because we would see Skrillex, we'd go see Zed, Porter Robinson, anyone that was going to Vegas, because that was the place to go back then. And that was the only place people were going, besides maybe LA at the time. But it was cool because we got to see all the huge names before, not before they got big, but before it was Scary Monsters and Good Sprites is How Old Now?
Good Sprites?
Isn't that what it is?
And Nice Sprites?
Oh, yeah, sorry, Nice Sprites. I call it Good Sprites.
I just thought you were sarcastic.
No, I made a remix of working on that, and I renamed it wrong on purpose, and so in my mind it's wrong.
There it is. Okay, and probably even, I imagine the time like when festivals were not nearly as big as well.
No, festivals weren't big at all.
They're not doing anything in Salt Lake nearly as big as it is today.
No, because even
2022.
When did they first do EDC in Vegas?
Didn't they 25 years or something?
No. In Vegas. In Vegas.
I don't know.
So Braden I don't remember what he was doing, but at the time he got a free ticket to go to EDC for the first year. It was in Vegas. Because I'm pretty sure it was 2010. No, it was 2012. I can't remember. Anyway, and he went and he told me about it. And I was like, that sounds crazy. So the next year, he couldn't go, and I don't remember why, but I took his brother with me, and we went. Because at the time I had a buddy that was doing an event for the artists before where they were like blowing up cars and doing a bunch of crazy stuff outside of this, or out at this place where they do that normally. And I got to go in with him, or we went in and I brought his brother. That was my first experience. And I was just like, my life changed after that. Because one, electronic music was already cool. I liked it, going to the clubs and all that, but going to a festival and seeing that many people play at a time, I was like, holy, this is nuts.
Touching on the notes, and then also just where we're at in the conversation, what was appealing to you at the time of discovering all this new music? Like, and again, I use the word culture with intention because I firmly believe that the electronic community embodies and holds a culture within it. It's going to vary wherever, kind of music you find yourself, subgenre you can find yourself listening to. But like, what was attracting you to going to all these shows, aside from living in Vegas and, it's a 10, 20 minute drive, whatever it is, like what was capturing your interest, your excitement?
The sound.
The sound?
Yeah. Because
it was just so new, or
it was a new thing. I was just like, this is different, because classical
and jazz.
You do have some synthesizers in some of the older music or classic rock stuff, like just kind of in the background. But it like hearing just pretty much that and discovering, you can completely make music like this. That's interesting. That's cool. It was fun. It was just this is like super interesting more than anything. The festival is what caught my attention, because I was like, there are 200,000 people here to see all these different people make what they can make in their bedroom.
What you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, holy cow, this is nuts. Yeah. And then from there, I moved to Utah. And then we were at the time, my friend and I, me and Braden, we moved up here.
One time, shouts out Braden.
And shout out Braden. We moved in and we're living at Infinity Event Center.
Living there?
There was an upstairs. There was a bedroom.
Okay. First off, R.I.P. Infinity. There's an apartment complex there, and it breaks my heart. A lot of fun memories there. Nothing like what you were doing. Give me an overview of why and what that was.
So I was supposed to be moving up here initially because I'd been so in Vegas I was working at a restaurant.
Okay.
Because you work in the restaurant industry down there, it's really good money. I'd had some money that I had put aside, and he was coming up to help out with Infinity Event Center to make it more club-like. Never ended up going that direction. And I was supposed to be opening up where that Cheddar Burger was. I was supposed to be doing a sandwich shop there.
Oh, like taking over the Cheddar Burger?
No, before it was there.
Before the Cheddar Burger was there. Wow.
And things just didn't work. And things just didn't work out. And so I was like, screw it. I'll just stay up in Utah for a bit anyway.
Dude, we were crossing paths like left and right. Yeah. I remember when the Cheddar Burger went in. Got to pour one out for Infinity, dude. Straight up. A lot of good memories there. You were quite literally living in this upstairs loft.
So you know
area.
the bigger room?
Yeah.
And you go up the stairs?
You believe so.
So if you go up the stairs, there's two rooms. There's one that went back this way and one this way. There was a bedroom in that one.
And that was your designated space?
Yeah. It was me and Braden, we were just essentially roommates for a little bit. We were only there for a couple months.
Got it.
And then we all ended up doing our own things. And then
I mean, you can check that one off the list of unique things of living in a venue. That's pretty dope. So I want to spend maybe like 5 more minutes in terms of like the high level journey. What was, I guess, the next series of events that happened? I only know so much, and so
it was at Affinity Event Center. So Static Dream. Were you there for that or no?
I don't believe so.
Dylan Francis came the first time.
Yeah.
So it's Dylan Francis and Party Favor, which was 2 guys at the time. So Dylan Ragland was in Party Favor. Dylan Francis, obviously Dylan Francis. But Dylan Ragland and his buddy were on their laptop just making music. And I was like, watching them do it. And they're like putting finishing touches on stuff they wanted to play that night.
That's sick.
And I was like, that's weird. And this is a time when they weren't big at all.
So you could stand right next to them.
Yeah, I was just standing right next to them just watching. Yeah. And I was like, that's super kind of cool. And so I just thought about it, and Braden had talked about he wanted to start making music. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so we started talking back and forth about it. He started doing it, and then he kind of backed off, and I'm like, you know what? I can figure this out. I've been in music my entire life. Why not? I was sorely mistaken at first. It is hard to start into, but now, obviously, 10 years later, you learn things and you get better at it over practice and time. Because I mean, if you work on stuff, I'm sure you get it too. Yeah.
I'm about to put my 10 years in.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of value in this particular topic we're talking about right now. I want to dive into it for just a moment. For someone who's listening who wants to get into producing or DJing, I feel like if they were to hear 10 years, like that could be daunting. That is going to be maybe overwhelming, or like, oh my God, I want to be playing on these big stages or doing cool things next year, 2-3 years. What kind of advice would you give to someone just starting out, wanting to kick off their DJing or producing career?
So
what would you share with them?
The people that have only done it for a year or two are either extremely beyond talented or they get lucky. I mean, the fact is, if you actually look at like, if you've listened to anyone ever talk about it, right? It's very hard to find a producer that's been like, oh yeah, I started making music last year. It just doesn't work that way.
Got it.
There's too much you have to somewhat learn with depending on like the digital audio workspace you're working on. Like I use Ableton, right? And you're using Logic, right?
Currently, yes.
And you're using Logic. Like there's different things you can learn. It depends on what level you want to be at. I think if you want to start out and you don't want to jump into the learning curve of Ableton or even Logic, then start with something like Fruity Loops. There's all these different things. But at the same time, you never stop learning. Like that's the thing is the whole music making industry, in my opinion, is cool. I did this. Now what can I figure out? Now what can I learn to do this? What can I learn to do this? How can I be better in this section? How can I figure out how to do better mixing when it comes to my percussion or when it comes to my high ends versus my mids? Am I mastering this section right? Should I be turning this down? There's all these different things you have to learn that you just can't figure out that quick.
So what I got out of that is understanding that it's a constant like student mentality is a large part of the experience, but also like this overnight success is kind of like a facade, and there's a lot of layers of knowledge and learning experiences in the hours and hours and hours, days, weeks, months, years behind some of these successful tracks that you're streaming and listening to and you find on your playlists.
Like, perfect example recently that got big, Ray Volpe, right?
Yes.
Laser Beam.
Yeah.
Huge song this year. He's been making music and been doing stuff at Disciple for like 7 years. Like, he's been doing it a long time. And he had one song. It was a song overnight that just blew up because Excision heard it, I think. No. Black Tiger Sex Machine, if I remember, heard it first, started playing it, and all of a sudden Excision heard it, and then everybody heard it. And it blew up this year. That's one of those overnight things that seems like it's, he wasn't a big producer. He just barely started. He's been making it for 7 years.
Yeah, little do you know, if you take 2 minutes and look behind the curtains, like you know, there's been many hours, blood, sweat, and tears put into the journey, if you will. Speaking of the journey, I'm going to jump back to the journey.
Yep.
Okay. So at Infinity Event Center, Garrett, if we could take the next like 4 minutes and bring us up to speed with where we're at now. I know that's a lot.
No, it's pretty
but I want to make sure we can talk about everything.
So when I started doing it at the very beginning, I was trying to take it serious, but I had that realization, the clarity of, this is a lot harder than I thought. So this is going to become a hobby instead. And it did.
Oh my God, dude. That helps me understand your thinking and our... Thank you.
So I had the clarity and I was like, okay, that's what it is. All right, that makes sense. So I went through the process. It was a hobby for the next 10 years. And I was just like, okay, that's fine. But to me, in my opinion, it's the best hobby you could ever have because you're creating something from nothing. It's something you can put in a hard drive and leave for years, go back to it later and be like, man, that sounded like crap, but I'm kind of surprised I even made that. And so I did that for a long time. I went from Utah back to Vegas, moved back to Utah, got into selling cars, made good money doing that. Decided as much as decent as I am at sales, I just don't care. And I tried a couple other things. And then Braden, my best friend, owns an ad agency. He hired me onto it. And the great part about that job is there's some days I don't have to work a lot of hours. And so I can actually focus on working on music. And then now I've been taking it more serious in the last, I'd say year and a half, because I was like, I definitely see that there's been a different, like there was in a year of time, there was a massive jump in the quality of everything I made. Because it's like anything, I feel like there's a moment that it clicks and something just makes sense. You're like, oh, this is what I've been screwing up on. Okay, so you start working on it, and then all of a sudden something else clicks. You're like, oh. And then I was like, you know what? I think I want to start taking it serious this next year. And this was last year. And then Hive came into the picture, and I'm taking it a lot more serious because of Hive now and the collective that they are.
Listeners, you don't have this context. I'm going to share something with you. Just in our short time of being friends, I remember you mentioning time and time again, like, this is just a hobby. I do it for myself. And deep down, I always felt like there's something beyond that, or like, why is that the case? You painting the picture of your learning experience going to New York and performing and acting to being introduced to producing electronic music and taking it on through the approach of like, this is going to be a hobby, and it actually is really hard when you first interacted with it. That helps me understand why you kind of had that perspective a little bit more. We jumped over so much in the last 4 minutes. Real quick, let's talk about Hive for a second. What is Hive for those who may not be familiar with it?
So Hive is collective artists here in Salt Lake.
Awesome.
Some of them, majority of them are playing shows already. Like you've got DJ Gabba that's playing regularly downtown, along with.
Shouts out Gabba.
Yeah, Gabba.
I gotta get him on.
Shout out to everybody in that group, dude. Like it's fun. Like Kinetic Cannibal's a guy that he's local, but he's got stuff that's getting released on Subsidiary Records, which is I think Subsidiary Records. I know he's got a couple releases on some other records. I think he's got one he's trying to get on that label, or it's about to go on that label, which is Excision's label.
Wow.
But
that's huge.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And a lot of these other guys, they all play downtown. They headline their own shows. I'm the odd one in the group that makes music and doesn't play it.
That's where we're going to go to next in the conversation. I'm going to have Chase on for an episode here, wrapping up the season. Chase, the founder of Hive, had brunch with him yesterday. We chatted for nearly 4 hours, and just, similar to you, like our friendship has been short-lived, but it's been great in the short amount of time. And we'll be able to talk more about Hive if you're a local artist and or if you're just into electronic music. That's something to look forward to in a future episode. Garrett, let's talk about your unique position as an artist, as a musician, that is working to be playing more shows. I think that's a pretty unique position to be in. I feel like most people who are performing regularly, like they'll start out as a DJ and then take the producing route.
I do have to backtrack slightly. I did DJ a little bit in 2012. I missed that.
This is correct. This is correct. Real quick, a little teaser of that, what that looked like?
It was okay.
Yes.
It wasn't anything crazy.
Okay.
Because that was I realized what my problem was when it came to that is I wanted to play what I wanted to play.
There we go.
And if you're if you're a DJ and you're not performing because people want to see you, you have to play what they want. That's like the job of DJ is reading a crowd.
Yes.
Knowing what they want to hear, or playing something, realizing that's not it, switching it to the genre that you're kind of realizing they're vibing with. And my problem is I wanted to play what I wanted to play because it fit what I was trying to do. And I realized back then I was like, oh yeah, this is not my thing. And so now the whole thing is recently it's been nice because making the music that I have and after having joined Hive Collective, people have looked at me different. I've gotten actual DMs and stuff like, hey, can I get that? I was like,
how did you do that? Or yeah, I'm sure.
And it's just like thing after thing's been kind of like that. And that's what's the nice thing about that. I mean, obviously if the opportunity to play when it comes up is going to be great, but being able to, and I love that Chase told me this when he said it, he's like, you're not going to go out and be an open format DJ. You're going to play what you need to play. And I was just like, oh, thank you.
I couldn't agree more. I was playing a show with my buddy and Luke from Problem Child.
Okay.
And it was a unique dynamic, and it was like it was a Do Not Disturb, so it was primarily electronic house music. But I kind of talked to him. I'm like, we want to come at this with a little strategy in order to maintain a crowd. If we need to play a little bit more of the poppy candy type shit, then I'm going to have that in the back pocket. And he totally understood.
Yeah.
Like, I can't remember what's his favorite. He's got this banger pop remix and it's dope. But, for how I know you in what you've shared with me in terms of your experience in producing and the music that you love, speaking electronically, it seems very appropriate that you stay in that lane and you don't do the open format stuff.
Yeah.
You're continuing to build a concrete foundation as an artist, a performing artist, and not an open format DJ. Yeah. I'm doing the opposite of that. Like, as I'm narrowing in, not doing less of this open format stuff into my lane. Yeah. You're starting with a very clear lane.
But that's the difference, right? If you start out DJing versus making the music, it's a completely different, it's a different perspective.
Yeah.
Because when it's funny because you go, correct me if I'm wrong, if you go and see a show and the guy's not mixing the greatest, you're kind of like, he could have done this instead, or probably done this, right? That's not what I do. When I go, I'm like, that riser's really cool. I wonder, did he do that with a sine wave? Was it a triangle? Was it a square? That's what goes through my mind.
Yeah.
And it's the production side of it versus I don't care about the transitions. I'm just more excited about unless he mixes a song that's really just abstract and makes no sense. Some of this random stuff like the Titanic song that I mix into other stuff, right? Randomly. Yes. If it's stuff like that, yes. Then I'm interested in the transition.
Got it. Yeah, I mean that's a left field kind of example, but it makes sense. I definitely like technically that's something that I love and admire and like really appreciate about DJing. But it's more so like the feel for me. You know, the feel and the flow and the energy and what they're giving and how the crowd's reacting, receiving. The full-on production is kind of like, and even like the stage presence and when they choose to interject, like that's a lot of the stuff that I'm kind of looking at when I go to like a festival or a show versus like a little bit more of a technical DJ or a small private event. I'm probably looking at more of the technicalities of the actual DJing.
It's like A-Track versus going and watching A-Track versus watching Zed.
Very different.
Two completely different things. Yeah. Both
legends,
extremely talented. Yeah.
But very different DJs. If you're not a DJ and you don't know those people, look up both of them. It'll take 60 seconds. You'll get a very quick understanding of what that looks like. Garrett, we probably got like 3-4 minutes left. Talk to me about like the biggest challenge in terms of continuing to take this lane so much more seriously and taking this work, the art that you're creating, and starting to play shows. Like, what's the structure behind that? What's the thought process? What are you projecting? What are you looking forward to?
My biggest issue, I think, with me like slowing me down throughout everything is definitely organization. I've never been good at that. And I'm actually working on it a lot. Just like I mentioned before, after talking with Latrique, he helped me understand. He's like, you should probably schedule out your day when you're working on music. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah. He's like, you'd be blown away by how much of a difference it can make on top of the 30 day, third song every 30 days. Or every day for 30 days. I'm working on that and overcoming it so I can do better with that sort of thing. Beyond that, it's right now, the biggest thing that slows me down, or the other thing that's slowing me down, is just regular practice on the mixer. Like I've been practicing more or less, but like a good hard practice where I feel comfortable start to finish with several sets. I'm not quite there, only because every time I go to do it, I want to play my own stuff, and I have a hard time like, or taking something I've remixed. I'd rather play that versus taking something that I probably should play. Like I should probably play like a Virtual Riot Redline song, or Redline that song, and then do this instead and do this. But it's just like, I'd rather, like today I was thinking about it and I literally opened up, put Redline in my DAW and started trying to mess with it. I'm like, no, never mind. Stop.
It definitely does sound like a little bit more structure in terms of like the practicing would serve you well. Cause like you meant to do this, but you got excited and wanted to go create.
It's exactly what happens every time.
That makes a lot of sense. Outside of the podcast, I would love to see how I could support you there, because my organization holds me back sometimes because I like to be so organized.
So you need me to teach you how to not be organized. Easy.
Yes. Done. Yeah. I rev off on you, you rev off on me.
So this is how you do it, right? Drink like 5 Red Bulls. That's my brain all the time.
Oh my God. I'd have a heart attack, bro. One other question, then I kind of want to open it up and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
It's almost the new year. What are you stoked about? What are you looking forward to?
I am excited
in this
to see
chapter?
where like a couple things I've had to do. It's a little kind of personal sacrifices I don't really want to talk about, but I've had to sacrifice a couple things like this month that I'm like, no, you know what? I really want to focus on making music work. And so it's just like this next year, I want to see in myself what actually happens. Like I'm excited for the unknown, which normally I try to do everything I can to not have to deal with the unknown, but it happens. But I'm excited because if I can slow down, I can release enough songs, kind of have do the organization parts that I need. I'm excited to see what's going to change this next year, because that's the goal, is focusing on how I can get better at doing what I'm doing every day and pushing it to things that I want to be doing. Does that make sense?
The consistent day-to-day, accelerating to that next step ahead, and then making it your main thing day-to-day, to where you get to work on music and nothing else. Like that's the main thing. It's the number one thing, 7 days of the week. Yeah. Got it.
Over time, that's the goal.
Is there a show date in
Not
the
that I know.
books?
Not yet.
He's going to be getting a call.
Technically, Technically, I do. But it is technically an open format. But here's the reason why. Mm-hmm. So Braden has his supplement company that they're doing a launch this next month. And I was just like, I'll come do it.
Oh, yeah.
Because best friend, got to support him.
Yeah.
You got to support your friends.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Bang sat right on that couch, dude. Yeah, he's got another episode coming up.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that you support the people that want to succeed in their life. And because, I mean, even if, let's say, if technically they're not the greatest at it, mm-hmm. just showing support helps them build that courage to get better.
1,000%. Oh my God, we could have done a whole podcast episode just talking on that.
Oh.
I'm serious. That just makes me think of looking over at Flanker and seeing you on the left side, just right by the partition. You come out to 2 or 3 do not disturbs. Mm-hmm. An example of how I see that from you as a friend. Garrett, where can the people find you on social media, my dude?
Everything is the letter I, R, then Bastion.
I-R.
B-S. Gosh, I forgot to spell my own thing.
I think
I've respelled it like 3 times on accident.
Isn't it an I at the end, or is
it's
it
I-A-N?
I-A-N.
No, it's not, because Bastion is the video game character, which the name of
that's where it stemmed from, right?
Yes. I can say exactly how it became that real quick.
Yeah.
So I play video games. I'm a gaming nerd. Overwatch has a character named Bastion, and I played him the wrong way. You're not supposed to play him the way I play him, but I can do it. But I discovered if I drank a little bit before, I was really good at it. And so initially the name was Drunk Bastion, and it was spelt wrong on purpose, like I was drunk and spelling it.
This is great.
And then eventually I was like, you know what? Let's not endorse that too much. Let's stick to just Bastion. And so now it's I-R-B-A-S-T-I-O-N.
I-O-N.
But that's on everything. Whether it's YouTube, socials. Twitch, everything like that. Sometimes Dope. I'm streaming music when I make it.
Dope.
It's fun.
Dope. Anything else you want to leave the listeners with? Or I know it's short and sweet, but we covered quite a bit of ground in 40-ish minutes or whatever.
So outside of everything, going back to the bio, right? Gotta find happiness in things.
Yes, sir.
I'm a firm believer, and this is one thing that's helped me throughout my entire life, and even pushing to just kind of, with stuff like this too, just because I believe if you're not in a good mindset to do this sort of stuff, it's kind of hard to do it.
Of course.
The thing that makes me the happiest every single day is if I can put a smile on one face.
I love it.
And it makes my day better, hopefully theirs. Mm-hmm. If not, that's fine. It is what it is. But like just seeing someone smile every single day because it's something, maybe I said a stupid joke or I did something dumb, like, doesn't matter. If you can make one person smile today, man, life changes.
That's awesome. I could not agree more. And I think that's a great kind of principle to choose to live every single day and maintain that perspective. Before I wrap everything up, anything else you want to share with the listeners, my dude?
Do what you love. Making music, I love it, and that's why I was fine with it being a hobby. But obviously, that took a step forward. But just if you're not happy doing what you're doing, find a way to do what you can to be happy,
little by little, even if it's 5 minutes a day.
Yep,
building upon that. Hell yeah. Garrett Erickson is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. This has been episode 56 of Behind the Energy Podcast. One time, shouts out my boy Nick Nord, shouts out Braden, shouts out Bangarang, shouts out Gabba, the whole Hive fam, and shouts out all the people watching on YouTube and listening from across the country and everywhere else in the world. It still blows my mind that people are interested in what we're doing here, but if you like music, if you like DJing, if you like entrepreneurship, you're welcome here. It's a safe space. Until next time, my friends, namaste. Garrett, muchas gracias, my dude.
Hasta luego.
That is a wrap. Thank you for listening and going behind the energy with me. If you loved it, thumbs up it. You can follow me on social media at Parker Andriese and check us all out at bringingtheenergy.com. As for now, we are signing off. And I'll catch you next week for another episode. Peace.